Tonight, we got a fresh signal about where the US-Iran standoff might be heading, and it came straight from Donald Trump's own words after Iran's top leader warned that any US attack could trigger a wider regional conflict. Here's what happened in plain terms. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, issued a clear warning. If the United States strikes Iran, the consequences won't stay contained. It could expand into a broader regional war. That's not a casual sentence. That's deterrence. That's Tehran telling Washington, if you hit us, you're not choosing a clean, limited operation, you're choosing escalation risk. Trump's response was classic pressure and optimism at the same time. When asked about that warning, he basically brushed off the threat as expected. Why wouldn't he say that? While repeating that he still hopes for a deal. But he paired that with an unmistakable reminder. The U.S. has moved significant naval power toward the region, and the message is that Washington is keeping military options visible while talks are supposedly happening. And that combination, open talk of negotiations plus visible force, is the strategy. It's leverage. It's also inherently dangerous because when both sides are trying to project strength in public, you increase the odds of miscalculation in private. Now, why is this happening right now? Because the dispute is not only about one issue, it's layered. There's the nuclear file, what level of uranium enrichment Iran is maintaining, what limits might be negotiated, what inspections are accepted, and what sanctions relief would look like. There's also the regional power struggle, Iran's influence network across the Middle East, the security posture of U.S. partners, and the fear that any strike could trigger responses beyond Iran itself. Then there's the internal pressure inside Iran, protests, crackdowns, and a regime that wants to show it's not cornered. Trump, meanwhile, is trying to communicate two things at once to two different audiences. To Iran's leadership, you can still choose a deal, but you're not negotiating from a position of comfort. To his own domestic audience and allies, I'm tough, I'm active, I'm moving assets, but I'm also pursuing a deal so we avoid a bigger war. Here's a key detail many people miss. Markets react to this stuff instantly because energy risk is a global tax. The moment Trump said Iran is seriously talking with the U.S., oil prices dropped sharply because traders immediately priced in a lower probability of disruption in the Strait of Hormuz and a lower probability of near-term conflict. So when you see oil moving like that, it's not just Wall Street being dramatic. It's the world trying to estimate, are tankers going to flow normally next week? Or is everyone about to pay more for energy and shipping? Because even a limited exchange can raise insurance costs, reroute shipping, and spook supply chains. That's why these statements matter beyond politics. But let's get real about the deal talk. When Trump says discussions are ongoing, he doesn't give details. And that ambiguity is part of the game. It keeps Tehran guessing about deadlines, red lines, and the size of what Washington is demanding. It also keeps allies guessing, and that's not always a good thing, because allies in the region are the ones who would be exposed first if things spiral. Now think about what Khamenei's warning is designed to do. It's meant to raise the perceived cost of any U.S. strike so high that Washington hesitates. It's meant to say, you're not hitting a single target, you're opening a front. Whether that's true in practice depends on what Iran chooses to do and what its partners choose to do. But the purpose of the warning is to shape decision-making in Washington before any decision is made. On the U.S. side, the naval deployments and public statements serve the opposite purpose. We're close, we're capable, and we're not afraid to act. The idea is to convince Tehran that delaying talks or playing for time is riskier than signing something. So you have two strategies colliding, deterrence versus pressure. And the most dangerous part of that collision is that both sides need to look strong publicly. Once leaders lock themselves into public narratives, backing down becomes harder. Not because it's impossible, but because it costs political capital. Now let's zoom out and ask the questions that actually matter. First, what does a deal even mean in 2026? Is it narrowly about nuclear constraints? Or does it expand into missiles, regional activity, and enforcement mechanisms? The broader the scope, the harder the deal. The narrower the scope, the easier the deal. But critics will argue it leaves key issues untouched. Second, what is the real objective behind the U.S. pressure? Is it simply to force negotiations, or is it to weaken Iran's leadership and encourage internal instability? Because those are not the same objective. And the second one is far more likely to produce unpredictable outcomes. Third, What does Iran believe time does for them? Some regimes believe time lowers pressure. Others believe time increases risk. If Iran thinks the U.S. is bluffing, it may stall. If Iran thinks the U.S. is serious, it may rush toward talks to buy safety. The same facts can produce opposite decisions depending on what leaders believe about the other side's resolve. Fourth, how close are we to an incident that nobody planned? This is the part that keeps experienced analysts up at night. When ships move closer, when forces posture, when rhetoric heats up, the risk isn't only a planned strike. It's a mistake, a misread movement, a misidentified drone, a defensive reaction that the other side interprets as an attack. This is how escalation can happen even when both sides claim they want a deal. Now, if you're watching this from Canada or anywhere else outside the region, you might think this is far away, but it isn't economically. Energy prices, inflation pressure, and global market volatility don't care about passports. And geopolitically, if the US and Iran spiral, the ripple effects hit allies, trade routes, and diplomatic alignments fast. So here's what to watch in the next 24 to 72 hours. Watch for confirmation of formal or indirect meetings. Not just talks are ongoing, but where, who's involved, and whether there's a timeline. Watch for Iran's next statement. When Tehran talks, pay attention to what they emphasize. Sovereignty, regional war, defense, sanctions, or negotiations. The vocabulary signals priorities. Watch for U.S. messaging discipline. If Trump's team stays consistent, deal is possible, but pressure remains. That suggests a controlled strategy. If messaging becomes erratic or escalatory, it can signal internal debate or shifting objectives. And watch the oil market. Oil is often the fastest truth meter for whether the world thinks tensions are cooling or climbing. At the end of the day, Trump's response to Iran's leader wasn't just a quote for headlines, it was a message. We're talking, but we're also ready. Iran's message was just as blunt. If you strike, it won't stay limited. And the world is now stuck in the space between those two statements. A space where diplomacy can happen, but where the margin for error is thin. If a deal happens, it will likely be framed as preventing a wider conflict. If a deal fails, the next chapter won't be written by speeches. It'll be written by decisions, red lines, and events on the ground that move faster than politics. So the question isn't only, will they make a deal? The question is, who blinks first, who miscalculates first, and whether both sides can step back without losing face before an avoidable crisis becomes irreversible.